Cast for Tuesday, March 4th,
tariffs on Canada,
2025.
Mexico, and China. In White House comments heard live on Bloomberg Radio, the president said he was following through on a promise he made
Presidential
last month.
tariffs.
Tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico.
President Trump also doubled tariffs on Chinese goods from 10 to 20%.
And Karen, Canada is hitting back with phased levies on $107 billion worth of U.S. goods, while China has imposed tariffs as high as 15%, mainly on American agricultural shipments. Breaking across the Bloomberg terminal this morning, China continues to retaliate. It's halting imports of logs as well as soybeans from 3 U.S. companies.
Nathan, President Trump's decision has sparked a bearish mood across markets. Asian shares sank to their lowest level in a month, while the S&P 500 suffered its worst sell-off this year. Kellyanne Shaw, former Deputy Assistant to the President for International Economic Affairs, tells Bloomberg this.
Sell-off in the markets, that's good, you know. Always good to buy low and sell high. Now, it's Tuesday, and, Tuesdays over here is Troll Tuesday. We invite trolls to come on board and try to make fun of us and make fun of me specifically. We like to play with the trolls. So we'll see if any of these guys are up. Usually there are not too many of them here, but occasionally we'll get one or two come in. And, there seems to be a pattern where they start projecting, their own inadequacies or conditions or something onto somebody else. They start in with these accusations of somebody being homosexual or something like that, and so it's a sign that they themselves have some issue that they're dealing with, and so we want to show them some love and understanding and let them vent a little bit here on the Random Guy podcast. Every Tuesday, we talk to the trolls. We kind of put them on the lounge chair. We act as a surrogate psychiatrist for them and try to understand where they're coming from, and then you point them in the right direction. In a positive direction. We try to stay positive here, ladies and gentlemen. The big news of the day, obviously, is the tariff on Mexico and Canada. Kicked in, I think, at midnight. And my quick analysis on that is this NAFTA deal that Trump had renegotiated in his first term was scheduled to be, renegotiated in 2026, next year. And so Trump applying these tariffs is possibly his way of bringing Canada and Mexico to the table quicker to try to, redo the NAFTA deal now and work something out between those two nations. There's been talk about Canada being a 51st state. I think all these land acquisition things are kind of ridiculous. I don't see any of them happening. The Greenland and all this stuff, and while all this noise is happening with the Greenland and Canada and Gulf of America and all this bullshit, what's really happening behind the scenes is you're seeing private enterprises going into Ukraine and raiding Ukraine. Ukraine has trillions of dollars of natural resources. One estimate I saw last week was they had something like $100 trillion of all sorts of natural resources. I dug a little further into that, and I found that already about 1/3 of that has been purchased by private enterprise, private interests. Since the Biden situation there, where they got in, they stuck Hunter in there in charge of some company, and so they've been raiding Ukraine ever since, under the guise of this war versus Russia. But the thing you guys need to remember is that all wars are resource wars. All wars have always been resource wars. That's what this is all about. And so there's this war going on between Russia and Ukraine. I don't know how long it's been going on now, like a couple of years already. I mean, think about it. That long to conquer, what, three provinces and, both sides making incursions here and there. But really nothing much has been accomplished over the course of these 2 years or 3 years that this thing's been going on. It's insane, man. Time to react. Hello. Good morning. India. Good morning. How are things in India, my friend? I'm seeing your prime minister pop up in my news. What's he up to? Tupac. How you doing, buddy? I'm doing good, bro. I'm doing good. Yeah, all this talk about Canada. I think it's all bullshit. Canada is such a huge country, and a large part of it, the Northwest Territories or whatever they call them now. I mean that's all indigenous, people up there and polar bears and shit. I mean I'm sure there's probably some mineral resources and shit they could exploit up there, but I think we need Trump and the United States need to focus on the United States and fixing our infrastructure and fixing Social Security and these important things that need to happen. Creating jobs. This guy's been promising jobs forever, making America great again. I mean, let's do that. But we'll see what happens, guys. It's all a show, this political theater, with the Zelensky thing in the White House. I mean, supposedly what was supposed to happen was Zelensky was going to sign over one half of the mineral rights to the United States. This is one half of, and they've already taken a fucking third of the minerals already there. And so it's clearly a resource war. And Zelensky balked at it, and and so Trump and Vance and I think Rubio was there also. Marco Rubio is the one that worked this deal out apparently with Zelensky. They had some type of verbal agreement, and then what happens is Zelensky goes to the White House wearing his costume there with the black sweater and shit, and he tries to finagle his way out of that, and so obviously Trump's all pissed off and everything, like we had a deal. No deal's a deal. What's up, big homie? Inner city pigeon. I always used to feed the pigeons when I was in the city. Walking home from school, I went to a Catholic school up until 8th grade. In the last couple of years, 7th, 8th grade, me and my brother was 3 years younger than me. We would walk from the school a couple blocks into the ghetto, jump on a bus, get a transfer pass, where you paid like 55 cents or 75 cents or something, and you could get a transfer. Like you would take the one bus across the city of Hartford, down to Market Street in the financial area of Hartford, and we'd get on another bus there that would take us across the river back to our hometown. And as 7 and 8 year olds, we were doing this. We were getting on a public bus and going home. There was no babysitting, none of this bullshit, none of this after school. Kids back then in the late 70s, early 80s, were toughened, man. We went outside, we played in the woods and stuff, and nowadays kids don't ever get out, man. They're always got their nose glued to the phone. It's kind of sad. But I saw pigeons there, and if I had a sandwich or something, I'd throw them some food. We need that Northern Territory, rare earth minerals from Maple Leaf Land. Yeah. I mean, that's the only reason that Trump's got his eye on that, is this guy's exploiting it. He wants those resources. So you guys got to stand firm and keep what's yours. Yeah, getting lost on the bike, man. You'd go out till it was dark. When it was dark, you knew it was start. You'd have the fingers. How many fingers before sundown? 15 minutes. When it got down to about 2 fingers, half hour before sunset, we picked up our baseball gloves, our bats, got on our bikes, and drove home. Because moms and pops were getting ready to have dinner, and they hit the sack early. My parents did. Usually by 8 o'clock they were asleep because they would get up at 5 or earlier and go to work. That's kind of what I do now. I'm in that cycle of getting up early and going to work. But my time on the hamster wheel is coming to an end, guys. I got 361 days as of today. 361 days before I retire. My planned retirement date is February 28th, 2026. And that is because March 1st of next year is the first month I could start collecting Social Security. Reduced Social Security. I'm going to lose about 40% of my maximum Social Security benefit by retiring 5 years early. But the plus on that is that I have 5 years of my life, the best years of my old age. I call it the youth of my golden years. I'll have those healthy years to take care of my parents mainly, but also to travel and see things and have a good time. Just live a good life. Hey Cindy, how are you? Good morning. So that's the plan. I got a small pension with my first company I got hired with out of college, and I'm going to kick that pension in at age 65. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a raise. And the goal, obviously, with the investments, 401k and IRA accounts and all the sorts of stock trading accounts, is leave that money alone, let it grow, add to it here and there. But I'm not touching that money until I turn 70. When you turn 70, you have to have mandatory 401k withdrawals. So I'm going to take out the minimum amount I need at that pay. So even though I'm getting a reduced Social Security at age 62, those first 8 years, I'm pretty much going to be skating on Easy Street. And the main thing is trying to stay healthy, guys. I'm 40 pounds overweight. You see my chicken neck, guys? I gotta lose weight, guys. Been sick last few weeks. Finally getting over it. I went to the doctor last Friday and I got placed on the Z-Pack antibiotic. So I got one more day of that to take, and some prednisone also for the inflammation in my lungs. And I'm pretty much feeling maybe 85-90% right now. Hey, Putty Cat, good morning. Tariffs are in effect. Yes, I was talking about that earlier, Putty Cat, the Mexico and Canada tariffs. And my thought is that there's a NAFTA deal, North American Free Trade Agreement, between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. That was put in years ago, but it's been renegotiated periodically. In Trump's first term, he renegotiated the terms with the condition that the NAFTA agreement was going to be renegotiated again in 2026. And so what I think Trump's doing here is that he is kind of forcing the hand on Canada and Mexico to come to the table earlier and renegotiate terms, ahead of 2026. So, it's all like smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. I don't worry too much about shit I can't control. I worry about things in my orbit, my simple things. I got to take my mom to her eye doctor on Friday. I got to go to my dental cleaning on Friday. I got shit like that to do. You got to take care of yourself. Hey, Bianca, how are you? Bianca Dupree. Yeah, nice. Bianca, you You are out over there on the West Coast, and I've never been to Oregon. As I said, I've never been west of Pittsburgh, and that's sad. At age 61, I've never seen the western part of the country, but making initial plans with my lady to take a nice road trip next year after I retire. We're gonna take 2 or 3 weeks, get in the car, we're just gonna drive and see all these national parks and a couple things like that. Drive down the Pacific Coast Highway, probably stop and see my brother in California. So yeah, gonna kind of celebrate retirement by taking a nice road trip. Pretty cat. My thought is to take Social Security as early as possible. Yeah. You don't know how long you're going to live. Exactly. You don't know how long you're going to have your health. You could keep working on that hamster wheel another 5 years, but it's getting to the point where I'm feeling being forced out, Putty Cat. I do this job. I go to court. I prepare the dockets. I write legal reports. That's what I do. I got burned out adjusting claims for 5 years. I did adjusting claims, workers' compensation claims. 95% of the people injured at work are great people. They want to go back to work. They want to heal. They want to go back to work. Those 95% take up 5% of the adjuster's time. It's the other 5% that are fucking deadbeat bums that will do anything to malinger and stay out of work. They take up 95% of the adjuster's time. And so the burnout rate, when I started doing claims, it was said that after 5 years you're going to burn out adjusting claims, workers' compensation claims. I did it for over 25 years, But towards the end there, I was like, this is so tedious. I can't do this shit anymore. And this opportunity came to become the hearing person, to go to hearings, versus other attorneys and stuff, and get out of the office. And that was such a great opportunity for me. I got the job, got a substantial pay increase, and it's been good. I mean, I've been doing that for 8 years now. This is the 8th year I'm doing it. And my intent was to keep working until 65, but my parents are deteriorating. My dad he's 86. He's going to be 87 at the end of the year. He's got dementia. He doesn't know what day it is. He doesn't know. You tell him, we're going to the store tomorrow. An hour later, he'll have his coat on and he'll say, when are we going to the store? I said, we're going to the store tomorrow. Things like that we have to deal with. So it's getting to the point where they need a full-time caretaker, and that's what I'm doing. I'm retiring early. I'm going to become my parents' full-time caretaker, take care of them, and it's my obligation to do that. My brother's in California. Him and his wife can't be there for them. I'm here. I'm there for them. So that's the plan. My retirement kind of got forced upon me, twofold, with the parents' situation, and also with the work. What they started doing at work is in addition to doing the litigation stuff, they started dumping these legacy claims on me. These accounts that we had that had open claims for whatever reason, people still treating, 10 years later, 20 years later, accounts that we no longer insure, but we still have to administer the claims. They dumped like 40 of these fucking old dogs on my ass. And so I'm getting hammered with all kinds of shit. And that's, to me, it's clearly a shove out the door, they don't want to hire another adjuster. All the other adjusters that are actively adjusting claims are all, crying that they have too much work. A steady caseload, a workable caseload in this business is about 150 claims per adjuster. And I think a lot of them have like 200 or more. So it's just like an overweight situation there. And I'm getting out, man. West Coast is the best coast. West Coast. So the ladies agree the West Coast is the best coast. Yeah, Bianca, I try to make Tuesdays Troll Tuesday. We bring trolls on board, see what they're up to. We try to put them in the psychiatrist chair and figure out, what's wrong with these fucking trolls. Why do they hide their faces? What are they ashamed of? But I don't see any right here today. They're still sleeping, these guys. They don't work. If they do work, they work, part time. I don't know. Raylan Funk. Hello there, brother. I'm sick of the niceness. I want to move to the East Coast. Well, Bianca, come visit for a while before you decide to move, because I think you're used to the West Coast, laid back nature of it, and everybody tells me that. Green Thing tells me the West Coast is so beautiful, it's nice and everything, and so we're gonna go out there, we're gonna travel, and we're gonna see some things next year. What can't stand is a good point. Companies that typically want to push you out when you're at say 55 at the age, too expensive, and they could get somebody cheaper. Exactly, bro. I mean, they could hire somebody and pay them, half of what they're paying me to do this hearing job. Easily pay them half. But yeah, and that happened to my brother and his wife. They got forced out of their jobs. He was a tech guy for a major insurance company, worked from home, and he was like a help desk. 24/7 he's available. And they, management changeover with young, MBAs coming in and, knowing everything, and they forced him out. He ended up retiring at 55 2 years ago. He's 57 now, my brother. But luckily he's in the Air Force Reserve. He was in the Air Force for a long time, and he injured. He's got some injuries or something that he had, like his knee, his hip was injured. He injured his thumb. He was practicing on with a rifle or something, and he tripped over something. He fell. He injured his thumb. So I was talking to my brother yesterday. He has an accrued disability of all these injuries over the years in the Air Force, that he's able to go. He was able to retire, able to collect his medical benefits from the VA, and so him and his wife decided to retire. They live in California. They got to California at a great time. I think 2010. They moved from Connecticut to California. So they bought a house. The house has, exponentially gone up in value. My brother's a smart guy. He invested, and so they're living off their investments right now until they get all their retirement things in order and start collecting on the Social Security and everything. What does an adjuster do? Well, we adjudicate workers' compensation claims. Somebody gets hurt on the job. We interview them. We decide if the claim is compensable or not. If it is compensable, we let them pick a doctor. They stay with this doctor. The doctor keeps them out of work or releases them back to work. It gets them treatment. Non-invasive treatment is rest, physical therapy, things like that. Invasive treatment, if there's a fracture or something severe, there could be surgery. It depends on, it's all case by case basis. Sometimes people are killed in the course of their job. If they have a spouse, the spouse gets lifetime benefits here in Connecticut unless they remarry. So like, let's say a husband is a roofer and he's working on the roof. He's married. He falls through the roof, kills himself. The wife will get lifetime tax-free benefits for the rest of her life, as long as she doesn't remarry. If she remarries, those benefits stop. It's different in different states. I mean, some states I've seen where they, if a surviving spouse wants to remarry, the insurance company has to pay a dowry, which is like 52 weeks of the payout in lump sum upon the marriage. and they stop paying that. I think that's a good idea. That allows people to move on with their lives. But in Connecticut, they don't do that. If somebody remarries, they just stop paying them the weekly benefit. And some of these weekly benefits are pretty high. I mean, our maximum benefit this year, I think, is something like $1,500 a week. Yeah, and that's tax-free. Workers' comp is not taxable because it's considered the taxes are already taken out. I don't think it's a shove. Or maybe they think you can handle it better because your experience. Now, Bianca, you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, it happens to us older workers. I'm 61 and they're paying me six figures. They could pay some kid $50,000, half of what I'm getting. You know, it's definitely a shove out the door. Did you fart? Chosen One, my friend, Chosen One, I was waiting for you to come here and troll me. No, I haven't farted today. You know, yesterday, well, this past weekend, my brother, his wife, and my niece and her husband, they were over because my brother's mother-in-law passed away. So they had all the funeral and everything last weekend, and they stayed until today. They're flying out. So we had our dinner with the family, my parents, and my mom made the Polish food. You know, put the pierogies together, and she put together the stuffed cabbage. And I didn't have any stuffed cabbage. They're called gołąbki in Polish. The stuffed cabbage, because cabbage does make me fart, does make me gassy. So I stayed away from the cabbage, and so I don't think you're going to get a fart out of me today, Chosen One. But please feel free to fart. Chosen One, I would recommend that, you know, if you're into farts, do your thing. Create a farting channel on YouTube. You know, do some shorts of, you know, walking by somebody. I did this in Cooperstown, New York, guys. Years ago, I was with a girlfriend, and she and I were walking, and I think I had my kids. She had a child, and then her parents were with us. We went to Cooperstown to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and we were walking, and for some reason I had gas, you know, and there was this big fat guy walking the other way, and a fart slipped out, and I let it rip, you know, I let it come out, like, real loud, and I turned to the guy, I go, "Sir, excuse me," and everybody starts laughing, you know. They thought it was this fat guy farting, but it was really me. I let one rip. So you can be creative with your farts, Chosen One. That's what I'm trying to tell you, bro. Doctors treating workers' comp claims can also be crooked. Yeah, they could. There's a lot of inflating of costs. You know, the way that the system is here in Connecticut is, the doctors have a lot of pull in the system because they ultimately decide if the worker can return to work or not, if their injury is permanent or not. If it's permanent, do they have permanent restrictions? Can they no longer lift over 30 pounds or whatever? These sorts of things. And so the hard workers, the 95% of the claims that aren't a problem, these people go back to work. They suck it up and they go back to work. But it's the 5% of the deadbeats that you know, they want to get out of work as quick as possible. You know, I literally had one claim. This girl was like 25 years old, 24 years old, had like 3 kids, and she had like a minor carpal tunnel. She hadn't yet worked 10 years, and she had like a minor carpal tunnel, wasn't working. Obviously, was collecting some child support from the baby daddies, and was, you know, on state benefits. And she goes, "I'm applying for Social Security." I go, "How the fuck are you applying for Social Security? You need 40 quarters of work. That's 10 years. I said, "You haven't worked 10 years. You had maybe 3 or 4 years of work." "Well, my friend told me I could apply." I go, "All right, go apply. I don't give a shit." But like in her early 20s, she was already wanting to get on the fucking on the government tip. Yeah, Christopher, do I do detective work? I don't personally do it, but yeah, we hire out private investigators all the time, and especially if there's a good indication of fraud, because these guys are expensive. Putting a private investigator on somebody for 8 hours, that costs a couple $1,000s, bro. It's expensive to pay for a private investigator to get a good film, and so you really got to pick and choose your situations with the private investigation. Minor things, we don't bother with it. We just try to get the doctor to get the doctor to realize, yeah, this person is doing this. There's a lot of times what trips people up in this business is their fucking social media, man. The first thing you check as an adjuster is you pull up the name on Facebook, you pull up their name on Instagram, you see what's going on, because these motherfuckers, they're over there saying, I can't do this, and they try to reschedule surgery dates and things like that. So we start poking around in their Instagram, their Facebook, and then we see, they're going to a surfing tournament in Hawaii, stuff like that. I found one woman who was a professional roller skater, roller derby. I guess that's still around. And this woman, she was in the southeastern part of Connecticut, over by Rhode Island, but she would go to New York. She couldn't drive to go to her doctor, who was like 10 miles away. We had to get her a cab and everything. She couldn't drive. But then I checked her Facebook, and she's fucking going to roller derby all the way over in Westchester, New York. So you bet I put surveillance on that biatch. We had like pole dancers, home health aides, that are, side hustling as pole dancers up in Springfield, Massachusetts and shit like that. There's all kinds of funny stories I can tell you guys. It is interesting, Bianca. That's why I got into it, because every claim is different, every situation's different, and it was a good career, I think. But I'm at the end. I'm done. I'm done with that shit. You could sell courses. Nah, that guy. You have to be licensed by the state of Connecticut, and most other states also have some type of licensing requirement. And so all this kind of training is all prepackaged. The companies have either train the adjusters themselves when they come on board, or they hire the professional trainers to do that, and because you have to learn law and everything. Workers' compensation law is administrative law. It's part of the administrative law in each state. You have criminal law, civil law, administrative law. So I deal with administrative law. Christopher, my grandpa is born in from Poland. Nice. Very good, Christopher. Farting channel. Let me know if you ever unload that girlfriend. Bianca, come on. She's a good woman. I love her, and I think we're gonna be good together. But thank you. Return to work. Light duty is a key for employers to offer. Yeah, exactly. And the thing that always got me with this is that our company prides itself on getting everybody back to light duty, and they don't underwrite a policy unless the employer agrees to provide light duty. But a lot of these mom and pop home health agencies and companion agencies, these kind of things that we insure, they don't bother with this. They say, yeah, we'll do it, and then they don't do it. And so we have to put them on light duty, and we have them job search, like go through apply for 5 jobs every week in order to continue getting paid. And so they do that, but that reflects on the company's premium, because every dollar paid out eventually is reflected on their loss run, and that down the road, 2-3 years down the road, all this shit's gonna add up, and their premium's gonna go up. They don't realize that, but that's the way it works, you know. Loss history, loss experience plays a key in you know, premium value. Nancy Drew, good morning. Let me get through the messages here. That would be a super fun job, private investigator. Yeah, you know what, Bianca? That's a job that requires noodles type piss bottles in the car, literally, because you're sitting there for hours and hours and hours, and you can't move. You know, you gotta pee where you gotta pee, that kind of thing. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. Christopher, damn roller derby, physical tackling. Yeah, dude. This woman she literally had video clips of her like elbowing some other woman into the boards, and you know, and then she's claiming a back injury that's debilitating her. I mean, it was a joke. Most companies self-insure with catastrophic insurance coverage. Yeah, I mean, that bigger companies, most municipalities like towns and cities self-insure, but they have companies like my company administer their claim. It's called TPA, third party administration, and so they don't actually do the day-to-day shit. They farm it out to us. They pay all the dollars, and what we do is we make the payments, we send them a voucher every month, and they pay us. So that's like municipalities, cities. Some bigger companies will do that. You know, I don't want to name the companies that we had here because number of claims matter for, yeah, absolutely guys. Well guys, I got a late start today, so I'm gonna cut it short here. I appreciate y'all coming through. We had a dead the Troll Tuesday, and nobody came here to troll except the fart guy, so you know, try to spread the word. The Random Guy podcast on Tuesdays, 5:20 to 6 a.m. Eastern time. Every Tuesday is Troll Tuesday, so we want to bring our troll friends here. We want to sit them down and analyze them and find out what's going on with them. You know, we want to try to get them straight. Anyway, guys, have a great day. I'll try to be back tomorrow. I can't guarantee that I'll be back tomorrow. Things are very hectic and shit, and so, but I'll try to be back. Everybody have a great day. Thanks, guys. Bye.